Hello, and welcome to Kaz English, your ultimate destination for mastering the English language. Whether you're a beginner or looking to polish your skills, we've got you covered with engaging lessons and practical tips. Don't forget to visit our website at kazap.uk. That's KAZAPP.uk for exclusive resources and additional learning tools to help you succeed. Let's dive into today's lesson and take your English to the next level.
All right, so today we're going to be diving deep into a conversation about stress relief methods. If you're looking to improve your English, especially for like casual everyday situations, this is going to be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're going to be breaking down a chat between these two native English speakers, David and Lisa. And you'll learn how to talk about things like stress in English, but also maybe even pick up a few new tips for yourself along the way.
That's right.
Yeah, win-win.
And I think what's really fascinating about this dialogue is it gives you a glimpse into how native English speakers actually use the language. You know, how they give advice, how they kind of express empathy, and how they talk about things that are universal, like stress.
Okay, so let's set the scene a little bit. Imagine you're Lisa, and you're feeling super overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You know, deadlines are piling up. To-do list is growing longer by the minute. And you bump into David, who just always seems so calm and collected. How would you approach this?
Well, Lisa does something really clever. She starts by saying, "David, you always seem so relaxed. How do you manage stress?" And I think it's interesting how she frames this. It's not a desperate plea for help, you know?
Totally. It's more like she's admiring his superpower.
Yeah, exactly.
This ability to stay relaxed even when everything's kind of going crazy around him.
Yeah, and by phrasing it this way, she makes him feel good. It's much more likely that he's going to want to share. And so this is a great technique to remember. If you want to ask for advice in English, you know, a little compliment can go a long way.
For sure. For sure. Okay, so David, being the chill master he is, says, well, I've found meditation really helps me unwind. Let's pause here for a sec because unwind is a key word to understand. It means to relax, to kind of de-stress, to let go of all that tension.
It's like taking a deep breath after you've been holding it in for way too long.
Ugh. Yeah, exactly. And notice how he uses the present perfect tense. He says, I found. This means he's tried different things and meditation's what works for him.
Right? It's not just a random suggestion. He's actually speaking from experience, which I think makes the advice much more credible.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, so David goes on to say, I meditate for just 10 minutes every morning to clear my mind. Now let's unpack this a little bit.
So the expression clear my mind, it's a metaphor, of course. It doesn't mean you're literally emptying your mind of all thoughts.
Okay.
It's more about finding a sense of calm and focus and letting go of all those racing thoughts that often lead to stress.
So like silencing that little voice in your head that's always telling you what you should be doing or how you should be feeling.
And notice the word just is really important here too. David is emphasizing that even a short amount of time, even just 10 minutes, can be enough to feel some benefits.
Right, and that can be really encouraging for someone who's maybe new to meditation.
Absolutely.
It's basically saying, hey, you don't have to become a monk and meditate for hours. Start small and see how it feels.
Right.
So now imagine you're Lisa, again, hearing this advice. You're probably thinking, wow, that sounds pretty doable. Maybe I should give this a shot.
Totally.
And that's exactly how she responds. She says, that sounds beneficial. What else do you do? So she's clearly interested and wants to learn more. This is a great example of how to keep a conversation going in English.
It is. She's showing genuine interest. She's politely asking for more advice, and she's keeping the conversation going.
Yeah, totally. So David, always happy to help, goes on to say, I try to maintain a regular exercise routine. It's a great stress buster. Okay, stress buster. I love that word.
Yeah, it's so visual.
It is,
Like
yeah.
this image of someone you know punching stress right in the face.
Yeah, and exercise really is like a superhero for your mental health. It releases all these endorphins, those feel-good chemicals,
Right.
and it helps reduce stress.
Plus, it can give you a feeling of control over your body and your mind. And that's really helpful when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Right. Okay, speaking of overwhelmed, Lisa says, I've been feeling overwhelmed lately. Maybe I should try these. So this is a word that's super important to understand when talking about stress.
Yeah, it describes that feeling of being completely swamped. Like you have too much on your plate
Yeah,
and you just can't keep up.
that's like your brain is just saying, nope, can't handle one more thing.
Exactly.
And it's a feeling that I think a lot of people can relate to, especially if you're learning a new language.
Absolutely. Learning a language can be really rewarding, but it can definitely be overwhelming at times too.
Right. So remember, you're not alone if you feel this way. And that's why it's important to find healthy coping mechanisms.
Like the ones David is talking about.
Exactly.
Okay, so David's next piece of advice is a little more nuanced. He says, also try to practice mindfulness during daily activities.
Okay, this is where things start to get really interesting.
Right, because mindfulness is one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around a lot.
It is.
But what does it actually mean? And how do you actually do it? That's something that we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And in the meantime, if you're enjoying this breakdown of real-life English conversations and you want to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got lots more to uncover.
Lots more coming up.
Welcome back. So remember, we left off with David dropping this mindfulness gem on us. Well, let's unpack that a little bit, because it's actually way more practical than it sounds.
Yeah, mindfulness, it's one of those words that you hear everywhere these days.
Yeah.
But it can be hard to know, like, how to actually practice it, you know?
Right, especially when you're busy and you've got a million things going on.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Okay, so picture this. You're rushing to work, your mind's already racing through your to-do list, and you spill coffee all over yourself.
Ugh, the worst.
Right, total disaster.
Happens to me all the time.
So normally you might freak out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, why me? I'm such a klutz. This day is already ruined.
Yeah, exactly.
But with mindfulness, it's all about hitting pause, taking a deep breath, and just noticing what's happening without judgment. You might say to yourself, okay, I spilled coffee. It's not ideal, but it doesn't mean the whole day is a wash.
So it's about kind of acknowledging the situation without, like, beating yourself up about it.
Right, exactly. And then you just focus on cleaning up the mess, one step at a time. You feel the water on your hands, the smell of the soap. You're completely present in that moment, not letting your thoughts run wild with worry about the future.
It's like you're bringing your attention back to your senses, to the physical world.
Exactly. And that's what's so cool about mindfulness. It's not about escaping reality. It's about engaging with it more fully, even the messy parts.
I love that.
And so if we go back to the dialogue, remember how Lisa responds to David's advice?
Yeah.
She says, thanks for the advice. I'll start with simple meditation. So it's interesting how she chooses meditation as her entry point into this world of mindfulness.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
Well, I think for a lot of people, meditation provides a structured way to practice mindfulness.
That makes sense.
You're literally sitting there closing your eyes and focusing on your breath.
Right.
It helps you develop that ability to just observe your thoughts and feelings without getting carried away by them.
So for someone who's totally new to all of this, it can be a really good way to start.
Exactly. And just like with exercise, you don't have to start by running a marathon.
Right.
Remember what David said, I meditate for just 10 minutes every morning.
Yeah.
Find a quiet place, set a timer, and just focus on your breathing.
Okay, so I want to go back to that word overwhelmed for a second. Because it's such a common word when we talk about stress.
Yeah, it's that feeling of being totally swamped, like you're drowning in responsibility. We're just drowning in your emotions.
And it's a tricky word, I think, for English learners because there isn't always a direct translation.
Yeah. It's more than just feeling stressed. It's like you feel incapable of coping with all the demands on you. Imagine a tiny boat in a stormy sea. That's kind of what it feels like to be overwhelmed.
There's a perfect image.
Yeah, and remember, Lisa used the present perfect continuous tense. She said, I've been feeling overwhelmed lately. So it's not just a fleeting moment of stress. It's something she's been struggling with for a while.
Yeah, it emphasizes that ongoing nature of her feeling overwhelmed.
Right, and it highlights the importance of finding those healthy coping mechanisms.
Like the ones David's talking about.
Right. Meditation, exercise, mindfulness. These are all tools that can help you regain that sense of balance when you're feeling overwhelmed.
So even though this dialogue is pretty short and simple, it's actually packed with so much useful stuff, not just about English, but about dealing with stress in general.
It's true. It reminds us that we don't have to suffer alone. We can talk to people about how we're feeling, and we can learn from each other's experiences.
I love that. Okay, so before we move on, why don't we quickly recap some of those key vocabulary words? So we had unwind, which means to relax and let go of tension. Overwhelmed, which is that feeling of being totally swamped. And then mindfulness, which is about paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
Right. Try using those in your own conversations this week. You'll be surprised how often they come up, especially when you're talking about stress.
And the more you use them, the more confident you'll become.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit and think about how this whole conversation started. Lisa asked this really simple question. You always seem so relaxed. And it led to this really deep conversation about stress management and mindfulness.
It did.
So I think it shows how powerful curiosity can be and how even seemingly casual conversations can lead to some pretty amazing insights.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing how like a simple question like, you always seem so relaxed, can lead to such a deep conversation about stress and mindfulness.
Right. It shows the power of just being curious and asking questions. Lisa could have just kept her stress to herself, but she decided to reach out to someone and learn from them.
Yeah, and that's such a good reminder for anyone learning English,
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Even if they seem simple, every conversation is a chance to learn something new.
Absolutely. And remember, everyone's learning all the time. Even native speakers are constantly learning and refining their language skills.
So true. So true.
Yeah. So just enjoy the process.
Okay, so if we kind of zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture here, this dialogue wasn't just about vocabulary or grammar. It was really about human connection, empathy, this shared experience of stress that we all have.
Right. It reminds us that we're all kind of in this together. We all face challenges and we're all trying to figure out how to deal with them.
Exactly. And sometimes the most valuable insights come from these like simple everyday conversations. We just have to be open to listening and learning from each other.
And that's what makes language so fascinating. It's not just about communicating. It's about connecting with other people, sharing stories, offering support, and learning from each other's experiences.
I love that. So as you continue learning English, remember that it's not just about the rules and the vocabulary. It's about using the language to connect with others, to build relationships, and to understand the world around you a little bit better.
Yeah, and who knows, you might even learn some valuable life lessons along the way, like how to manage stress or how to be more mindful.
Right, exactly. So if you're feeling inspired to maybe try out some of these stress-busting techniques we talked about, share your experiences in the comments. Let's create a little community of support and learning.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more conversations like this.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for joining the conversation here at Kaz English. We hope you found it fun and informative. Don't forget to check out kazapp.uk. That's kazapp.uk for more tips, resources, and interactive practice. Keep exploring, keep chatting, and we'll catch up with you again soon.